All right, another spark and another build. Welcome, builders of the Weave. Today we're cracking open one of the most exciting and game-shattering elements in Tools and Titans. We're talking about cards that don't just play the game. They break it. They rewrite the rules and reshape the board in a single, earth-shaking moment.
We're talking about event cards. If you've played other card games, you might think you know what these are. The big board wipe, the one-time game changer. But in Tools and Titans, it's a different philosophy entirely. These aren't your standard tools or structures. They're not even Titans.
So what are they then? If not a spell or a trap, what role do they fill?
They are moments, flashes of history, industrial anomalies, and pulses of pure lore that can flip a losing match into a legendary victory. They are the story of Heroria interrupting the duel you're having.
I like that. The story interrupting the duel. Before we dive into how to break the rules, let's quickly recap the rules themselves. For anyone new to the game or for veterans who need a refresher, the turn structure is the foundation of everything. It's the clockwork that makes the world tick.
Exactly. And understanding that clockwork is key to understanding how events can so brilliantly shatter it. The turn is broken into 6 phases. First, you draw. Simple. You get your options for the turn.
Then you charge. This is where you commit a card from your hand to your charge zone to generate the energy you need to play other cards. A critical decision every turn. Do you sacrifice a powerful card now for the energy to make a bigger play later?
Third, you build. This is where you establish your board presence. You play your structures, your defensive walls, your energy-generating forges. You lay the foundation for your strategy.
Fourth is the act phase. This is the heart of your turn. You use your Titan's abilities, you play your tool cards, you activate tasks that serve as long-term objectives. This is where the combos happen.
Fifth, you clash, the combat phase. Your Titans or empowered structures can attack the opponents. It's the most direct form of interaction.
And finally, the end phase. You clean up the board, effects resolve, and you pass the turn. 6 steps: draw, charge, build, act, clash, end. That's the core loop, the engine of the game. But event cards, as you said, throw a wrench into that engine. A beautifully chaotic, strategic wrench.
Precisely. Think of it this way. If a normal card is a cog in that machine, an event card is a cataclysmic system shock. The official summary describes them as rare, lore-anchored disruptions. And that's the key phrase we need to focus on, lore-anchored.
Okay, so what does that actually mean in practice? Give me an example. A rustquake. What is that beyond a cool name?
In the lore of Heroria, a rustquake isn't just a random disaster. It's a seismic shock wave caused by a massive buildup of corrupted energy deep within the planet's core, usually a sign that a major rust-born entity is awakening or making a power play. So an event card named Rustquake won't just say, destroy a structure. It will have an effect that reflects that story. Something like, destroy the structure with the highest defense. Then, for the rest of the turn, no new structures can be played as the ground is too unstable.
I see. So the mechanic is a direct translation of the story. It's not just random destroy all creatures effects. It's an echo of Heroria's history, intruding on the now. This is why they're so rare then. You can only have 1 or 2 in your entire deck and no duplicates.
Exactly, because a historical moment only happens once. You can't have 2 Rustquakes in your deck for the same reason you can't have 2 signing of the Declaration of Independence in a history book. It's a singular event. From a game balance perspective, it also prevents decks from becoming too focused on one single devastating effect.
It forces them to be a special occasion, not the core strategy. So they don't just add to the board, they fundamentally change the board's reality. I keep coming back to that phrase. What is their actual role in a deck then? If they're so rare and potentially unpredictable, why make room for one over a consistently good tool or structure.
That's the strategic gamble. Their primary role is to provide a major tempo swing or break a stalemate. Imagine a scenario, it's late game. Both you and your opponent have built these incredible engines. You both have a fortress of structures. Your titans are fully powered. It's a cold war. No one can make a profitable attack.
A board stall. The death of many exciting card game matches.
Precisely. But then you draw your one-of-event card, let's say it's Forgefall Cataclysm. Suddenly the board is reset. Their fortress crumbles. It's a board wipe, but one that feels like a geological event, not just a spell. They can also trigger time loops, recursion moments, or even factional power plays that give your guild a sudden massive advantage.
So it's not just about destruction, it can be about creating new possibilities. How do they actually function mechanically? This is what I'm really curious about. How do they bend the rules?
Most are played from your hand during your action phase, just like a tool or a flux card, but their effects are bigger. They reside outside the normal flow. An event might trigger an effect that lasts for multiple phases, or even multiple turns. It could shift the turn sequence itself, or put a passive alteration on every card on the field.
Lingering effects. That sounds powerful and dangerous.
It is. Many events resolve and then are sent to the junkyard, but often with a delay. They might linger for a turn or two, like the aftershocks of an earthquake. And here's the part that makes them so unique. Most events are immune to normal counterplay.
Wait, say that again? Immune to counterplay? So if my opponent plays one, I can't use a cancel effect on it?
In most cases, no. There are a few very specific cards, usually other events that might say counter the effects of an event card, but your standard cancel target card effects won't work. An event is not a tool or a flux card. It's a change in the state of the world. You can't cancel an earthquake. You can only deal with the aftermath.
Wow. So it bypasses the normal stack, the normal flow of action and reaction. It just happens.
It just happens, like fate. And some are even more surprising. They might have a condition that says if you draw this card while your Titan is below half health, it triggers automatically. No cost, no choice. The world just decides it's time for a shift.
That is a wild mechanic. It adds a layer of genuine unpredictability. So let's break down the gameplay impact further. You mentioned they can be played in the action phase, but also the forge phase?
Right. It depends on the card text. A Forge Phase event is all about altering the setup. For instance, an event might let you bypass zone limits, allowing you to have 3 EchoForms on the field instead of the usual 2. Or maybe an event called Geological Survey that lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and rearrange them. It changes the foundation of your turn before it even begins.
Whereas an action phase event is more about a combo turn, creating a sudden surge of resources or wiping the board to clear the way for a final attack. And they can even mess with the core resources like the charge zone or the weave states.
They can reset them, invert them, shuffle everything back into the deck. They can even force these incredible narrative-level decisions on a player. An event might force you to choose between sacrificing an ally or abandoning a critical task you've been working towards all game. It injects a dose of role-playing right into the competitive mechanics.
It really does sound like a mini-game inside the game. A sudden crisis you have to solve. This reminds me that even amidst all this potential chaos, the game is built on such a solid, repeating foundation.
Absolutely. And that foundation is what makes events so impactful. They are the exception that proves the rule. Every Titan turn, draw, charge, building act, clash, end.
6 steps, infinite ways to forge your victory. So, with that in mind, let's talk strategy. If you're going to run one of these high-risk, high-reward cards, how do you build around it?
Your deck needs to be able to do one of a few things. First, timing control. You need to be able to survive long enough to play your event at the perfect moment. Decks that control the pace of the game, perhaps using the forge or task phases to stall, are ideal. Think of a deck built around the Titan Masonics, who creates defensive structures. That deck is designed to survive until the late game, which is the perfect time to unleash a devastating event.
So you're weathering the storm until you can become the storm. What's the second approach?
The second is building for sacrifice. Some of the most powerful events require you to give something up, so you build a deck that generates a lot of small disposable resources. A deck around the Titan Kleptorix, who generates a lot of cheap temporary tool tokens, is a perfect example. Sacrificing a token that was going to disappear at the end of the turn anyway feels like a brilliant upside.
So you're turning your own junk into treasure. I like that. And the third strategy?
The third is the combo. The event isn't the win condition itself, but the key that unlocks it. You spend the whole game setting up a specific board state, and then the event card is the catalyst that locks in your win. A strategic player doesn't see an event as just a card. They see it as the climax of their deck's entire arc.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics. You mentioned categories before. Let's break them down. Flash events, persistent events, crisis events, and lore unveilings. Let's start with flash events. Get in, cause chaos. Get out.
Exactly. A perfect example is a card called Market Crash. It's a flash event that says, until the start of your next turn, all cards cost one more charge to play. It's simple, but devastating. You play it right before you end your turn, and you completely disrupt your opponent's ability to build their board. It's a tempo killer.
And for you, it's a cheap way to buy yourself a turn. Another one?
Sudden Illumination. A flash event that lets you look at your opponent's hand and the top card of their deck. It's not destructive, but the knowledge it gives you can completely change your next turn. It's a scalpel, not a sledgehammer.
Okay, so flash events are about immediate short-term advantage. What about persistent events? The ones that linger.
These change the texture of the game for a few turns. We mentioned Weave Heart Pulse before. Another great one is the Great Guild War. It's a persistent event that stays on the field for 3 turns. While it's active, any Titan that shares a guild affiliation with your Titan gets +2 attack. It's a huge anthem effect that encourages you to build a themed, tribal-style deck.
So it rewards dedicated deck building. But it also puts a giant target on your back for 3 turns. Now, crisis events. This sounds ominous. These are the ones that force those tough decisions.
They are. Forgefall Cataclysm is a classic. Another one is a Titan's Choice. It forces your opponent to choose. Either sacrifice their highest power tool, or you get to draw 3 cards. It's a terrible choice. Do they give up their best weapon, or give you a massive card advantage? There's no good answer.
That's brutal. It attacks their resources and their mind at the same time. And the last one here, lore unveilings. This sounds less like an attack and more like a revelation.
That's a perfect way to put it. Echo Chorus Return is a great example. Another is the unsealing of the first forge. This lore unveiling lets you search your deck for any structure card, regardless of its cost, and put it directly into play. It's like you've just rediscovered a lost piece of technology. It can accelerate your entire game plan by several turns.
This adds so much texture to the game. It makes it feel alive. So who typically uses these? Are they for every deck?
Not every deck, no. They're especially favored in narrative or campaign play, like the Hollow Crucible mode. But in competitive formats, you see them in decks that can manipulate time or the weave. Titans like Draftor, who plays with the sequence of things, or Obscuron, who can lock down mechanics, they love events.
And I bet the Rustborn have their own twisted versions.
Oh, absolutely. Escalation decks built around Titans like Boilgrim or the terrifying Nullspore use events to simulate the corruption spreading across the land, making the board progressively more hostile for their opponent. A rustborn, or might be creeping blight, a persistent event that makes each player discard a card at the start of their turn. The Rustborn player, however, has built their deck to benefit from discarding, while their opponent just bleeds resources.
That's brutal. It turns a symmetrical effect into an asymmetrical advantage. It's pure disruption, pure chaos, perfect for a titan like Shivvolt. So, the ultimate design insight here is that event cards are meant to be narrative forks in the road.
Exactly. They symbolize a change in the world state, a divine anomaly, a corruption flare, or a rupture in the clockwork of the world. They're designed to shock, reshape, and refocus the entire match into something unforgettable.
They're not just a mechanic, they're a story. A one-time story that unfolds right there on the table. It really speaks to the depth of this game. It can be a straightforward clash of titans, or it can be this complex, shifting narrative of fate and cataclysm.
It adds surprise arcs, alternative deck rhythms, and it really pushes players to be creative and ready to pivot at a moment's notice. It's the world of Heroria itself, bleeding into the rules.
It's a powerful concept, and a powerful tool for any deck builder brave enough to wield it. It all comes back to that core loop, and knowing when to break it.
In every match of Tools and Titans, your tradecraft unfolds in 6 simple moves: draw, charge, building, act, clash, end.
Simplicity for the novice.
Mastery for the Titan.